On a quiet Saturday morning, in what was supposedly one of the most heavily fortified cities in the world, an entire national leadership was simply erased in a single minute.
Okay, so let's really dive into this because this one question, it's the heart of this entire explainer. How is an attack of this magnitude even possible? I mean, we're not just talking about a well-protected target. We are talking about a target that was designed from the ground up to be an impenetrable modern-day fortress. Imagine trying to break into the most secure vault in the world, something like Fort Knox. This operation, it was kind of like that, but the vault was an entire city, and the treasure inside was the complete command structure of a nation. Now, when I say impenetrable, I don't just mean high walls and a bunch of guards. That's old school thinking. A modern fortress is this incredibly complex web of overlapping defenses, both technological and human, all supposed to be working in perfect harmony. Think about it like this. Let's say you wanted to get into a top-secret military base like Area 51. You wouldn't just hop a fence, right? You'd have to fool motion sensors buried in the ground. You'd have to bypass sophisticated electronic locks. You'd have to avoid constant surveillance from drones in the sky. And somehow, you'd have to get past guards who have memorized the face of every single person who's supposed to be there. This attack was against something even more complex, even more secure than that.
And this is the stark, almost unbelievable reality of what happened. It wasn't just one leader or a few key figures. It was the whole chain of command, just gone. Decapitated in 60 seconds. Now that term decapitation is a very specific military strategy. It literally means to remove the head, the leadership of an organization or a country. The thinking behind it is that if you can eliminate the brain, well, the body is left in a state of chaos and paralysis, right? It's unable to receive commands or coordinate any kind of response. It's a strategy designed to end a conflict before it can even really begin. Let me put it another way. Imagine you're playing a game of chess. A normal game involves slowly capturing your opponent's pieces, one by one. A decapitation strike is like a single, impossible move where your opponent not only takes your king, but also your queen, both your rooks, and both your bishops, all at the same time. The game is just over, instantly. There is no coming back from that. And understanding how this was even possible is absolutely crucial to understanding the new world that we're all living in now.
So to really wrap our heads around just how audacious this operation was, we first have to understand why this target was considered completely untouchable. I mean, this wasn't a case of someone getting lucky or finding some small crack in the armor. For years, military planners and intelligence agencies all over the world, they looked at this exact scenario and basically concluded, nope, it's an impossible mission. So let's take a moment to break down piece by piece exactly what the attackers were up against.
The target was the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. And his security wasn't just a group of bodyguards. No, it was more like a living, breathing, multi-layered defensive system. First up, you've got these concentric rings of security. Think of a medieval castle, but on a massive modern scale. A castle has an outer wall, right? Then an inner wall, and then the keep itself. To get to the king, you don't just breach one wall. You have to fight your way through every single layer. Well, here, the outer ring might be military checkpoints on every major highway, miles and miles outside the city. The next ring would be the perimeter of the government district itself, just swarming with elite armed guards. Then another guarded perimeter around the specific building, and so on and so on. Next, you have anti-aircraft batteries. These are incredibly sophisticated missile systems that are constantly scanning the skies. Their one and only job is to detect and immediately shoot down any unauthorized plane, helicopter, drone, or incoming missile that gets anywhere close. They create this invisible protective dome over the city. Then, there are the electronic countermeasures. This is a crucial invisible defense. Think of it as a digital shield. These systems are designed to broadcast these powerful jamming signals. So if an enemy tries to guide a smart bomb or a drone to a target, these countermeasures flood the area with electronic noise, like a massive storm of radio static. The bomb's guidance system just goes blind, and it misses its target. It's a way of fighting technology with more technology. And all of it was deep inside a capital city that was blanketed with military checkpoints, where any suspicious vehicle or person would be stopped and questioned in a heartbeat. A direct head-on assault wasn't just risky, it was a guaranteed suicide mission.
Okay, so if you can't blast your way through the walls, and you can't fly over them without being shot out of the sky, what's left? What do you do? Well, the answer is as brilliant as it is terrifying. You don't fight the fortress at all. Instead, you get the fortress to fight itself. You meticulously study your enemy's defenses, and you turn their greatest strengths into their most fatal weaknesses. What this means is that the new strategy wasn't about overpowering the defense, it was about outsmarting it, about subverting it. Instead of trying to tick down the front door, you convince the guard on the inside to unlock it for you and just wave you on through. This fundamental shift in strategy is what made an impossible mission suddenly possible.
This comparison here, it perfectly illustrates that shift from the old way of thinking to the new. That brute force approach on the left, that's what we all see in old war movies, right? Waves of soldiers storming the gates, a loud, bloody, high-casualty assault. Against a modern layered defense like the one we just described, it's a strategy that is absolutely doomed to fail. But the new strategy, deception, is completely different. Instead of attacking the walls, you turn the fortress's own eyes, its vast network of security cameras and sensors, against it. Instead of fighting the army head-on, you secretly weaponize the very systems they rely on from the inside. And the result? An invisible, data-driven strike. See, the goal wasn't to be stronger than the enemy. It was to be smarter, to be invisible. Let's go back to our home security example for a second. The brute force way to rob a house is to smash a window or kick down the door. You make a lot of noise, and you hope you can get out before the police arrive. The deception method, though, is to hack the home's security system. You make the cameras show a looping video of an empty, peaceful living room while you just quietly walk in the front door, completely unseen. The very system that's meant to protect the house is now providing cover for the robber. That's exactly what happened here, but on a national scale. It was a silent digital infiltration, not a loud physical one.
So how in the world did they achieve this invisible infiltration? Well, the primary weapon wasn't a bomb or a missile. It was data. And the engine that made sense of all that data was artificial intelligence. So what exactly is AI-powered surveillance? In the simplest terms, it's about teaching a computer to watch, to listen, and to find meaningful patterns in just enormous amounts of information, a scale that no human or even an army of humans could ever possibly manage. It uses a technique called machine learning, and this right here is the key. With machine learning, you don't program a computer with a specific set of rules like look for a man in a red coat. Instead, you feed it millions and millions of examples, pictures, sounds, text, and it learns on its own how to recognize things. It's like having a billion superhuman detectives who never get tired, never take a break, and never ever sleep. In other words, its greatest strength is turning this chaotic flood of seemingly meaningless noise into a single crystal clear signal. For example, imagine your job is to find one specific person in a packed football stadium just by watching hundreds of live video feeds. It would be an impossible task for a human being. But with machine learning, you could train an AI by showing it thousands of pictures of that person's face from all different angles. Then you could set that AI loose on the live feeds, and it would scan every single face in the crowd in a fraction of a second and tell you, hey, the target is in section 112, row 14, seat 5. That's the incredible power of AI surveillance.
And the data for this AI? It came from everywhere. The attackers didn't need to blanket Tehran with thousands of their own spies on the ground. They simply hacked into Iran's own systems and turned them into a giant surveillance network for them. The very traffic and security cameras that the Iranian government had built to monitor its own citizens, they became the primary tool for its own destruction. But it was so much more than just cameras. The AI was fusing data, which means it was intelligently combining information from all these different sources to build a complete picture. It tracked mobile phone pings, which act like little digital breadcrumbs, to follow the movements of key officials. It used thermal imaging from satellites, which can detect heat, to see which rooms in a building were occupied, even at night. And it even analyzed seemingly random, mundane things like food delivery manifests and the patterns of garbage trucks. Now, why would they do that? Because these things, they reveal the rhythm of life inside a secure compound. They tell you how many people are there, when they eat, and when they work. The most crucial point here is that no single piece of this data was a smoking gun. A garbage truck is just a garbage truck, right? But the AI, it acts like the ultimate puzzle master. It takes one piece from here, another from there, and it just snaps them all together until a detailed picture emerges. It's like trying to build a profile of a person using only their credit card history, their social media posts, and their phone's GPS location. Separately, these data points don't mean a whole lot, but when you fuse them together, they tell you exactly who that person is, where they go, and what they're likely to do next.
This quote from an Israeli intelligence official, it really gets to the heart of what all this data fusion achieved. It wasn't just about watching, it was about a deep, predictive understanding. After years of this digital surveillance, they developed what intelligence agencies call a pattern of life for their targets. A pattern of life is essentially a perfect digital model of a person's daily existence, their habits, their routines, their schedule. Think about the street you grew up on. You know which neighbor leaves for work at exactly 7:30 a.m. every single morning. You know the distinctive sound of the mail truck. If a strange car is parked outside for too long, you notice it immediately because it breaks that established pattern. That is the level of intimate familiarity they achieved, but for the highest echelons of a hostile government. And once you understand a person's pattern of life that perfectly, any deviation from that pattern, any unexpected change in routine, stands out like a signal flare in the dead of night.
all of this painstaking intelligence gathering was leading to a very carefully constructed plan. But just as they were getting ready to act, a new piece of information emerged from the data. It was an opportunity so great, it forced them to throw out their entire playbook and make an incredibly risky last-minute decision. And this was the critical turning point of the entire operation. So here's the fundamental dilemma they were facing. Standard military doctrine, the stuff they teach in every military academy in the world, it says you always attack at night. Darkness provides natural cover, it creates confusion for the enemy, and it minimizes the risk to your own forces. And that was the initial plan. But their intelligence revealed a huge problem. The Supreme Leader was extremely cautious, almost paranoid. At night, he never slept in the same place twice, constantly rotating between multiple hardened, deep underground bunkers. A nighttime strike would be like trying to hit a moving target in the dark while you're blindfolded. You might get lucky, but the odds were overwhelming that the main target would survive. This slide here breaks down the two stark choices they were facing. The night plan was low risk for the attackers because the darkness gave them stealth, but it offered a very low certainty of actually succeeding. The day plan was the complete opposite, an incredibly high-risk option with zero stealth, but it offered a very high certainty of success if, and that is a huge if, they could pull it off. They had to choose between playing it safe and probably failing, or taking a massive all-or-nothing gamble for a decisive victory.
And then, suddenly, that all-or-nothing gamble appeared. The AI, which was constantly sifting through terabytes of data every single second, it flagged an anomaly. Now, in data science, an anomaly is just something that deviates from the established pattern, and the AI detected an unusual convergence. Many of the top officials were all breaking their normal routines and heading to the same place at the same time during the day. This was highly unusual. But technology alone, even an AI this powerful, it wasn't enough to bet an entire mission on. There's always a chance the data could be misleading. The final critical piece of the puzzle came from a human source, a traditional spy, deep inside the Iranian regime, who sent a message confirming the meeting was real. The Supreme Leader and his entire war cabinet were going to be together in one room in a vulnerable, above-ground office building. This was the perfect marriage of new age tech and old-school espionage. The computer found the needle in the haystack, and the human on the inside confirmed it was the right needle. The gamble was on. So the decision was made. The daylight attack was a go. Now let's walk through the minute-by-minute execution of the operation itself, which was codenamed Operation Lion's Roar. This is the moment where years of planning and data collection come down to just a few perfectly choreographed seconds. Every second was critical. The operation unfolded in 3 perfectly timed steps. Step 1 was to isolate the target. Moments before the strike, specialized aircraft flooded the entire area with powerful electronic signals. Think of it like a giant, invisible wall of static that makes all radios, cell phones, and military communication systems completely useless. The whole point was to ensure that no one in the target area could call for help, warn the leaders in the meeting, or coordinate any kind of defense. They were effectively placed on a digital island of silence, completely cut off from the rest of the world. Step 2 was to blind the defenses. At the exact same moment the communications were jammed, another wave of attacks, probably a mix of cyber warfare and specialized missiles, hit Iran's air defense network. Now, cyber warfare in this case means using computer code to hack into and disable the enemy's systems. The goal wasn't to destroy the whole system, but just to poke a temporary hole in it, to disable the specific radar dishes that were watching the flight path for the incoming strike force. It's the electronic equivalent of turning off the security cameras right before you walk into the bank. Finally, step 3 was the strike itself. With the target isolated and the path totally cleared, the main attack force, likely a combination of stealth fighters and cruise missiles, flew in completely unopposed. Guided by the precise intelligence gathered over years, they didn't just hit a building, they hit a specific floor, and a specific room on that floor. It was the absolute definition of a surgical strike.
And this was the devastating result. 48. That's the number of senior Iranian officials reported as killed or wounded in that single 1-minute strike. The list included the Supreme Leader himself, the Minister of Defense, and the Commander of the Revolutionary Guard. At least 18 were confirmed fatalities. In just a matter of seconds, the entire command structure of the nation was wiped off the map. This created an instantaneous and catastrophic power vacuum. A power vacuum is what happens when those in control suddenly disappear, and there's no one left with the clear authority or experience to take their place. Imagine if the CEO, the entire board of directors, and all the senior managers of a massive company just vanished overnight. The company would just descend into chaos, infighting, and total paralysis. That's what happened here, but to an entire country.
Now,
After hearing about the sophistication of the technology and the perfect execution of the strike, it's very easy to think this was purely a story of technological dominance. But that's only half the story. The advanced technology was the key that unlocked the door, absolutely. But the door wasn't just unlocked. In a shocking failure of basic security, it had been left wide open. This metaphor says it all, doesn't it? I mean, why, when you know you are the world's #1 target, would you hold your most important meeting in the most vulnerable location imaginable? It is a failure of security principles so profound that it's almost unbelievable. To put it another way, it's like a bank deciding to store all of its gold in a garden shed out back, when it has a perfectly good, state-of-the-art, steel-reinforced vault deep underground. They had access to deep, nuclear-proof bunkers that were designed for exactly this purpose, but they chose to meet in an ordinary office building. Let's just break down these catastrophic failures one by one. First, holding the meeting in broad daylight. This goes against every single security protocol in the book. It made surveillance and targeting as easy as possible for their enemy at the exact time they were being watched most closely. Second, as we mentioned, the location was a standard office building, not a reinforced bunker. This is just inexcusable. It's the tactical equivalent of choosing to wear a t-shirt instead of a bulletproof vest in a gunfight. Third, and this is the one that security experts around the world find truly astounding, they allowed personal mobile phones in the meeting room. In the world of modern intelligence, a personal phone is nothing more than a tracking device that you willingly carry around in your pocket. Bringing dozens of them into one secure room is like sending out a written invitation to your enemies with your exact GPS coordinates attached. And finally, they maintained predictable patterns. They were creatures of habit. And this predictability, this routine, is exactly what allowed the AI to build such a perfect model of their lives in the first place. In a way, their own routines handed the enemy the blueprint for their destruction.
And this brings us to the core lesson of this entire event. The advanced AI and the stealth fighters, they were the tools for sure, but they weren't the ultimate cause of the attack's success. The disaster was ultimately caused by simple human complacency. It was human error that served as the backdoor into the fortress, a backdoor that no amount of anti-aircraft missiles or armed guards could ever defend against. In other words, you can have the strongest, most expensive lock in the world on your front door, but it's completely useless if you forget to close the door in the first place. They had become so comfortable and so confident in their fortress that they forgot their enemy was silently watching their every move, just waiting patiently for them to make one simple, fatal mistake.
So what does this all mean? What is the larger takeaway from this single, shocking event? This wasn't just one successful operation. It marks a fundamental change in our understanding of modern conflict and national security. It effectively lays out the new, unwritten rules for a new kind of warfare.
Let's walk through these new rules slowly and carefully. First, data is a weapon. Every digital trace we leave behind, from a traffic camera image to a credit card swipe to a social media post, it can all be collected, analyzed, and used for targeting. In this new world, information isn't just power, information is a guided missile. Second, AI is a force multiplier. That's a military term, but it simply means that technology gives a small team the power and impact of a much larger one. For example, a single intelligence analyst working with a powerful AI system can now do the work that would have required tens of thousands of human spies just a generation ago. It's like giving one soldier the strength of an entire army. Third, as we've seen so clearly, human error is the ultimate backdoor. The most advanced cybersecurity firewall is useless against a bad password. The most secure bunker is useless if you choose to meet outside of it. Simply put, technology cannot protect you from your own mistakes and lapses in judgment. And finally, everything is connected. The very systems a nation builds to keep its citizens safe and organized, traffic grids, cell networks, power grids, can be turned against it. In this interconnected world, your greatest strength can become your greatest vulnerability. The front line is no longer a line on a map, it's every single device that's connected to the internet.
And this final quote really brings the true, lasting impact home. A destroyed building can be rebuilt. A downed F-35 fighter jet, which costs over $100 million, can be replaced with a new one. But you cannot replace the human element. You can't just buy decades of leadership experience, command authority, and something called institutional knowledge. Institutional knowledge is all of the unwritten rules, the personal relationships, and the deep, nuanced understanding of how a complex system really works. When you lose that all at once, you lose the brain of the organization. The most painful, the most permanent, and the most strategic loss in this new kind of conflict, it isn't material, it's human. The loss of an entire generation of leadership is total and irreversible, and it can create a vacuum of experience that can destabilize a nation for years or even decades to come.
We'll end with this thought. This explainer has focused on a high-stakes conflict between nations, but the principles and the technologies behind it, they have profound implications for every single one of us. We live in a world where our movements, our communications, our purchases, and our daily routines are constantly being logged, tracked, and turned into data. And this forces us to ask a very real and unsettling question. In this new digital battlefield, where a single human mistake can be fatal, and where everyone is being watched, who really holds the power? The one with the biggest army and the most tanks, or the one with the best data and the smartest algorithm?
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end and see you in the next video.